Assalamu alaikum. I'm Nur Muhammad Shubho, ID 19410 of Naval 4th Batch. I'll be discussing the article Hidden Supply Chain Risk and Incoterms and Analysis and Mitigation Strategies by the authors named Jonathan Davis and John Watt, which has been published in the article Journal of Risk and Financial Management, and which is a Q2 journal. Now, coming up with the introductory part, we all know what Incoterms are, but to define them, they are the mainly the domestic and international movement requirements from the buyer and seller. Within this, there are so many the practices continually have been changed, and hence there are new terms have been added over the years, and there that add features and flexibility to accommodate more modern cargo transport methods such as air transport or containers. Within this, there are several areas of explicit risk described for which we must account, and the authors also try to to contain all those risks to various factors, and they try to use analysis tool by mitigating this crisis and which mitigation of crises should be done before. Now, coming up with the categories of expectation, there are 10 articles which minds that. One is general obligation, two delivery and taking of delivery, three is transfer of risk, four is carriage, five insurance, six delivery and transport documents, seven export or import clearance, eight checking packaging markings, nine allocation of cost, tenth is notices and communications. Now, before we move on, we need to understand what is failure mode and effect analysis model. It's an analysis tool which helps risk management identify potential risk and prioritize them for mitigation on the basis of each risk likelihood and impact. For throughout this Incoterm rules, all the potential failure modes are identified, and for each of these failure modes, the consequences was defined. And for each of these, a severity and likelihood category, which was on the basis of 1 to 3, where 1 was the lowest and 3 was the highest, was assigned. Now, coming with the methodology. This whole article was done by a survey which was created, tested, and refined to gain insight into the awareness, effectiveness of usage, and general knowledge of Incoterms bar rules by industry professionals. Among the 100 survey which was recorded, 84 were substantially completed, and it was approved by IRB, which is required for institutionally for any survey study. The survey was piloted to reveal areas of improvements in question clarity, particularly considering the international nature of the topic prior to final survey distribution. Now, coming with the results, there were some proposed. It was done via proposed failure mode effect analysis. On the liability from X, it was done before some parameters, which was the first parameter was liability from expert compliance and failure, and number two was damage by the party not responsible for the goods. Number three was damage responsibility impossible to accurately attribute due to the risk transfer point, and number four was difficulty resolving the damage disputes due to the rule inapplicability. Number five was delay from uncertainty about the responsibilities due to the rule incapability. And number six was loss due to the acknowledgement transfer of risk and responsibility. Then came the confusion about the materials handling responsibility and therefore the risk which might occur. Then, after the delays and loss or liabilities from the poor route and carrier selection by the part with no risk, and then comes the unanticipated liability due to unders insurance and inability to execute contract as written due to the incompatibility with import laws were mentioned. And lastly, the cost due to failure to strategically choose a rule that leverages highest capabilities were mentioned. All of these sectors were defined. Every Incoterms was analyzed by the segment of likelihood, severity, and risk priority number. In the discussion section, if we summing up the problem scenario risk score for each of the given rule, the overall score was for EXW it is 15, for CPT CFR is 15, for FOB is 15 as well, for DDP is 12, and CIF it is for 6. So interestingly, the rules that suggest the highest risk are not the ones have the appeared in recent editions, but in are rather the ones that have been used for many decades across many Incoterms versions. The risk highlight the issues practitioners have the Incoterm rules. They have been unwidely, they are not succinate, and two, they are inconsistent in many ways. So therefore, the conclusions are: in the near term, two main strategies are needed to mitigate the risk and cost identified to use the Incoterms. The rules in trades are: one is a significant improvement in industry in understanding the Incoterms. Rules requires well-trained specialists in the rules and their application in the industry, and as well as the detailed knowledge of international trade and logistics. And number two was the Incoterms rules specialists must be empowered to choose Incoterms regular strategically, which requires them to balance the logistics capabilities of the buyers and sellers organizations over the route under discussion. Choosing that the Incoterms rules are maximizing the buyer and seller capabilities to deliver goods and discussion most effective way. So therefore, the conclusions were made in mind in various way, and we believe it was the very nuanced way to mention all the risk factors. And we believe, and I believe that throughout the article, as the authors mentioned before, the mitigation and priorities have should be done. Some proper amendment should have been done in this particular scenario. That is why I firmly believe that this should make a viable change.